Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson, welcoming you in on this Sunnyside Summer Thursday. Coming to you live, this is the CHGO White Sox Podcast. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day. Only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders. Got this full CHGO White Sox crew with me. That's Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber and read his work at allchgo.com. The man in the middle, Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
Our CHGO White Sox community leader. You can follow him at Ecknerwall23. You can follow the show at CHGO_White Sox. And as Fred is mentioning, smash that like button and make sure you're subscribing to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We're being produced today by Sarah.
Wow.
Is it getting
so
softer
quiet
and softer?
She's so quiet, like a mouse.
Yeah.
It's the end of the week.
The air conditioner is drowning you out.
Sarah, you're sitting
it's almost the end of the week.
You're sitting 5 feet from me, and I can't even hear you.
It's the end of the week. My voice, it gets tired.
There you go. I think Sarah would be perfect on NPR. Just
that's a good call.
Whispering at 6
I don't know
a.m.
what that is.
National
you don't know what
Public
NPR
Radio.
is?
Oh,
Sarah,
yeah.
Come on now.
I'm a
Maybe.
Spotify kind of girl.
Yeah, I mean,
And a
Gen Z
podcast
does
kind of
not
girl.
know about NPR and the great sounds of NPR. I can't think of anything. Ira Glass.
What about Sound Opinions?
Sound Opinions.
There you go.
True. There you go. All right. Shout out WBEZ. All right. Let's get into today's meat of this podcast. The article did us a favor and released an article from both Ken Rosenthal and Britt Graholi about Jerry Reinsdorf. What was the biggest takeaway from you guys about this article? We'll be pretty much talking about it for an hour, getting into every single detail. So what was your favorite part? What was the best part that you got to learn from Ken and Britt?
Well, mostly these were things that you had heard as people who have been doing White Sox related jobs for the last 5 seasons. So confirmation of the facilities and the actual air travel. That was the biggest revelation for me, and other players recognizing from other organizations coming to the White Sox and like, this ain't big leagues. This is not what I'm used to. And the White Sox having a substandard airplane to other big league teams who have a little bit more comfort and things like that, style and class. And people were just going back to, if you guys have seen the movie Major League, where, 757 to Milwaukee? Excellent. And then, no, your plane is pulling up right here, and it's just a crappy plane with the lights off and such. White Sox are not that bad, and I've never really heard anything bad about the flights from city to city, but it tracks with the stuff I've heard on the White Sox. Not necessarily they're cheap, just stuck in their ways. And that plane was probably chartered a long time ago. And, Hawk used to talk about, I love United. I love all the people out there with the same pilots they've probably had forever. And they would name all the guys and girls. And the fact that they only had a couple first row seats or first class seats in a plane full of almost millionaires, it's kind of weird to me. So that being exposed by both Ken and Britt was a great thing for me to see go nationally. Like, we've talked about how we disdain how Jerry runs this ball club, but to see national reporters get on our track and say, this season that the White Sox have had, there was a preamble. There was reasons why this happened, and these are the reasons why. And yes, in the article, you see Britt and Ken say, while the plane doesn't make the errors or not hit, it's part of the whole White Sox system where they're not doing a lot of things right. They don't follow the little things, or they said in the article, they don't do the big things right, and they don't do the little things right. And that is part of the little things that make a big difference in the long run.
I think, first of all, tremendous reporting, obviously, by Ken and Britt, but I think that the main takeaway for me was kind of getting a clearer picture of Jerry Reinsdorf, someone who we, obviously, in the Chicago media don't get to interact with as much as we maybe would expect from him being the owner of not one, but two of the pro teams in town. And I think I hope I'm not expecting a lot of fans, due to their level of frustration, to maybe make the distinctions here, but so often the complaints from fans are geared toward what you would expect, right? Spend more money on free agents, do the kind of things that make this team good tomorrow, right? Kind of thing. And in being frustrated over that, they create the character of Jerry Reinsdorf, who they obviously target all of their frustrations toward. I think what we see from this article is the defining of what the actual person is like a little bit more, and in terms of how he runs this organization. It's not necessarily the easy Twitter or YouTube comment attack of he's greedy, he doesn't want to spend any of his money, because we hear people in the article say quite the opposite. But what you do see in this is a story of stubbornness, a story of someone who wants to do things with their pro baseball team the way they want to do it. And it certainly seems like, in order to be not just successful, but just exist as a competitive team, you have to kind of play the game that's being played. And it seems that Jerry, through this article, is trying to play a different game than is being played. And I don't doubt for a second that he wants this team to win so badly. But I think his way of doing that is different from the rest of the other owners in the sport, to the point where you're seeing, as was thoroughly described throughout this article, an organization that is not equipped to compete with all those other 29 teams because of the way things have been run. It seems like you've got the success of 20 years ago, the World Series, and the methods of 30 years ago, trying to compete in the present day. And by everything that was described, they are not coming close to doing that on a variety of fronts.
And I guess this isn't my biggest takeaway, but just to hammer that point home, that he's just stuck in the mud. And as a former employee said, I'm not sure if any owner loves baseball as much as Jerry. That's why he can't get out of his own way. You think back to after the strike of 1994, this
30 years ago,
not alive. What?
30 years ago.
30 years ago.
30 years. I thought you said 3 years ago.
No.
No. 30 years ago. He goes out and signs Albert Bell and makes this huge splash of paying this player a ton of money on an annual average value sense. And obviously there was the opt-out for Bell, but he's never repeated that again. And it's clear that from everyone, he has the money, but that's not his way. The only reason why he went out and spent that money was because of the strike, and he wanted to prove a point. And that just gives me no hope as a fan of this team, because he clearly has an agenda, and he's been sticking to this agenda for 30 years. And if he's going to be alive for 8 more years or whatever, because he wants to live until he's 100, or not 8 more years, 12 more years. Ooh. But how is the All-Star game 2033 away? Or so 9 years.
The All-Star game is 9 years.
He's like 109 to 10 years, whatever. Mm-hmm. But that's my biggest thing. I was like, are we going to be stuck with this for 9 to 10 years? Is he going to come out after the season and be like, oh, I realize Chris is taking over. I'm going to try to pull myself back and enjoy what Chris puts out there?
No, absolutely not. Jerry is set in his ways, and being part of set in his ways means that he's going to do the things that he sees fit for this baseball team. Now, and through the article, you can see that people have his ear. Tony has his ear. Kenny had his ear. It seems like Chris Getz has his ear, trying to change how the White Sox do their old business. And I was so pounding the table for years and years and years. And still, since Jerry is so loyal, which they went over in the article, you should, as Rick Hahn, Kenny Williams, been trying, and they probably did, to get Jerry to change his mind on the things that he is so stuck on, to say, Jerry, we can't move forward as an organization unless we have X, Y, and Z. And another thing that kind of stuck out in this article is the analytics split, where they don't understand the analytics. Like, the scouting department would use the analytics and mean one way, and the few people in the analytics department would be interpreting the data another way. And there was no consensus of this is what the numbers are actually telling us. This is what we're going to be telling our players either way. And there was like that contention between those two factions. And we've heard contention between both Kenny and Rick, which wasn't in that article where Kenny, who spoke, which was amazing to me, Kenny Williams, former executive VP of baseball operations for the White Sox, he said that they had a good relationship and they, came together, but it seemed like, at the end they had something that was kind of couldn't work anymore. But that is a huge thing that you firstly don't understand the analytics, and Jerry is hesitant towards that analytics. But then when you do get the numbers, you're not have a universal understanding of it and how you're going to teach it to your players. That tells me that there's something broke and fractured in the actual organization. And I've always said this, 2005 is a great year for many reasons for me and the White Sox fans. But it's like that monkey paw. You have the World Series. And so Jerry saw that and says, man, I got that championship for those fans. And I did it my way. I did it with the guy I hired in Kenny Williams. And we steamrolled through the playoffs. And he's still on that track. 19 years later, he's still on the 2005 track. And he's still trying to hire people from 1986 and Tony La Russa, still on that track. He's a Hall of Famer. I got to listen to what his ideas are, as if those ideas are fresh and new and what are going on in 2024 baseball and not 1990s or 2000 baseball. And so that is the best and worst thing that happened to the White Sox, where you get the World Series and it's a great time. But Jerry is stuck on that and saying, I did that. I was the owner of that team, and you can't tell me any different. The way I did that was the right way to do it, and I'll continue to do that for as long as I can. And then until somebody comes in and says, hey, man, it's not working out. And I hope this year, hitting rock bottom, being one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in baseball history, will allow him to change his ways and be a little bit more open, even though that article tells you that he might be a little bit open. I want him to be a lot more open-minded to what Chris Getz, even though I don't believe in Chris Getz, Jerry hired him. So allow Chris Getz and his staff to do the things that they want to do to change this organization for the better.
I mean, yeah, we saw in that article. I mean, listen, we're reacting to that article, and we saw in that article examples of him listening to the people around him. I'm not sure that very specific aspect of things is the problem, right? I mean, Rick Hahn got him to do the full-scale rebuild, right?
He did.
Chris Getz has now brought in and made this committee, right, that we hear about from Ken Rosenthal. We heard about it from Jeff Passan when he wrote on the White Sox recently as well, that is making recommendations here at the end of the season for things moving forward that, according to this article, Jerry is receptive to, right? Perhaps even from the financial aspect of things. Hey, the resources needed to be given to all this behind-the-scenes stuff, even though folks might be focused on the free agent spending, which obviously, with where the team is at, would not come for a couple of years still. But it does sound like he's receptive to these things. It's just what you said, Sean, the phrasing that you used, right? The can't get out of his own way kind of thing, the idea that they have this rebuild plan that he agreed to and he bought into and he supported, and then it takes this unexpected turn when he hires Tony La Russa, which is a great hire in 1990 whatever, but in 2020 it's behind the times.
Well, and
even if it produced the most successful season they've had in a decade.
Yeah, true. Sad but true. And we'll get to Kenny Williams' quote about that team, because I found that really interesting. The poll quote about when he was asked about La Russa's time with the Sox. There was one thing. Oh, I just think, though, you talk about him being receptive, and we could talk about this after the break. I still think about him saying, we're not going to be in on Ohtani, and we're not going to be paying a pitcher $300 million.
Right. That's as stubborn as it gets, right?
10 years. Yeah. Right. Like, it's he's going to be receptive, but it's going to have to be something he likes to hear. Right. Like, Let's take a break. We're going to let you know about our friends over at Ray CDJR. At Ray CDJR, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Start your adventure over there if you're looking for a new ride. This September, shop new, lower prices across their huge inventory during Jeep Adventure Days going on now. For a limited time, lease the new 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo for $239 a month for 27 months, or shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. Let the amazing team at Ray CDJR help you during each step of your car shopping journey. With Ray's Price Promise, the numbers you're hearing now are the same prices you can expect to shop in-store and online. That's because Ray's Price Promise means no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees. And since they prioritize affordability for their customers, hurry into Ray CDJR today and shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories, then drive home with more money in your pocket than you'd expect. If you're in the market for a new vehicle, then you have to check out the team at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, because they are the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or Ray CDJR. Or RayCDJR.com. Serving the community since 1963. Herb.
Beginning on October 1st, which is about 12 days from now, the Blackhawks, the Bulls, and the White Sox will have a new home. Introducing the Chicago Sports Network, CHSN. CHSN will broadcast more than 300 live games per year across the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox, and will feature a full lineup of original Chicago-focused sports content. They also have Chicago-based, Chicago-built, and they also are Chicago-built, Chicago-based, and Chicago to the core. And they've been bringing every corner of Chicago across our 77 neighborhoods and beyond. At CHSN, Chicago comes first. Visit chsn.com for more info on how to watch Bulls, Hawks, and Sox game all season long. Get your rabbit ears out, Sean.
Yeah, that's cool. That's going to be over the air. I will just say, too, across 77 neighborhoods and beyond. Will there be a 78th?
Oh, that's what you were going with.
Yeah.
I thought you were just like,
the joke is,
I thought you were just like, hey, man, the suburbs. And I was like, I don't get the joke.
No, the joke is.
Why is he just referencing the suburbs?
I didn't even see in that picture that they actually had a fence that said the 78 on that stadium. I saw the little 78 painting behind home plate.
According to some estimates on the internet, to build a baseball stadium or baseball field of that scale with, that much sod, that much dirt, it's like $2 to $3 million. So there's Jerry Reinsdorf spending money.
On something that might not happen.
Yeah. Hey. All right.
$3 million worth of dirt?
Yeah. And Roger Bossard ain't cheap.
That's a lot of
He's
dirt.
the sod father.
And turning whatever that was initially to that park, yeah.
I mean, it's just a bunch of rocks.
In the interim, let somebody else use that field.
Yeah, that'd be nice. All right, let's get back into the meat and potatoes of it. What do we think about his stubbornness, though? Like, I understand that he's receptive, but is Chris Getz going to be trusted? Is the biggest part about this Chris Getz's solo voice compared to Rick and Kenny's dueling voices?
I don't know. I think if you're talking about trust, I mean, Jerry was around Kenny and Rick for decades. He compared Kenny Williams to being like a son type figure to him. Mm-hmm. And Kenny in this story said Jerry was like a second father to him. So I can't imagine there would be a stronger relationship between an owner and a head of a baseball department than that with those glowing reviews. So I think, listen, certainly Chris has the trust of Jerry Reinsdorf. Jerry Reinsdorf hired him without interviewing anybody else, right? Or without interviewing anybody else outside of the building, certainly. So it's just a matter of, it seems, if we're talking about the history that's chronicled in that article, it would seem that it's a matter of just keeping the hands off and letting Chris Getz do what he says he's going to do. And I think, listen, you don't buy a baseball team as a huge baseball fan and then plan to just ignore it, right? I mean, I don't think anybody would do that. If I gave you a baseball team, Herb, would you just be like, all right, well, I'm never going to make any input into the baseball decisions? Of course not. But I do think that you've seen from what has been written today that there have been a lot of negatives, if not almost exclusively negatives, to come from the way things have been done. Certainly in the last 20 years since they won the World Series. And you would think that you would want to move in a little bit of a different direction. And I think this article is illuminating the fact that they just haven't as an organization for the last 20, 30 years. And that's, I think the article was probably trying to seek out, the reporting was trying to seek out, how did the White Sox get to the point where they're about to lose more games than any team has ever lost? That's how.
Yep. And I think, while this is not a perfect analogy, as we were talking yesterday about Dominic Fletcher probably having the leg up in right field for next year because of Chris Getz trading for him, and that's one of his guys. Jerry Reinsdorf only interviewed Chris Getz for that job, or made Chris Getz that guy.
Well, he knows everybody, so he didn't need the interviews. I mean, did Chris even get interviewed?
No, but yeah, and so I would think that Jerry would be doing whatever he needs to do to make Chris successful, because he made that move to fire Rick and Kenny to replace him with Chris. And so I would say it's a prime time for Chris Getz and his staff to go and get what you want from Jerry. If there's things out there that you've been wanting, this is a huge embarrassment to the organization. I don't know if Jerry, as a billionaire, gets embarrassed. And if I was a billionaire that's won a championship in this town, I don't care how long it's been I've been an owner, that a team that's only won 3 in their history and I've won one of them, I probably wouldn't get too embarrassed, especially from people who are not billionaires. But let's say if Jerry was kind of embarrassed by this article and exposed by people that, he thought were his sons. I mean, I don't think Kenny necessarily broke bad on him, but his participation in this article, I'm sure, is not going to feel good for Jerry Reinsdorf. But if I was Jerry Reinsdorf, I would say the thing I want now is to have the guy I picked to be right and to be successful. And how I do that is hand over the reins to him. If I think he's smart and if I think he's like Branch Rickey, then I got to give him all the stuff that he wants to make this team better, because that's my pick. That's my choice. And if he does succeed, that means I succeed. And I can tell all these people who are laughing at me currently to go screw, because that's the guy I picked and now they're successful. Now what type of stuff? That's what I would do if I was Jerry Reinsdorf, because you've already made your bed in the Chris Getz way. You might as well make him as successful as he possibly can and not try to cut his legs off and not try to do business as usual, because you see where it's landed you.
I hear that. I just don't trust him, I guess.
Which one?
Jerry.
Okay.
I mean, he's picking Chris Getz, and obviously we've talked about maybe Chris not even deserving the actual promotion, and the fact that he didn't interview anybody for the job makes me a little queasy. But it's the fact that Jerry still thinks his way is the right way, and not even only like business wise, but get him on and get him over is literally what was quoted. Mm-hmm. Like, that's my biggest fear. Is obviously there's other stuff behind the scenes that I think Chris Getz can clean up. We're going to talk about the analytics. We're talking about you brought up the Airbus, right? Like, those seem like minor things that they can fix. But the biggest issue is Jerry thinks he knows baseball. And to the positivity force, I've never rooted for a passing as much as I do for Reinsdorf, sell or croak, old man.
That's not very positive at all.
No.
It's the opposite.
But at least to the sell part, like, he has very clearly stated, this is a fact, he is not selling the team. You're wasting your breath if you were saying sell the team. This man loves baseball. The only thing that he's ever loved for the entirety of his 88 years on Earth is probably food and baseball.
And his wife and his kids.
Not his kids weren't around for 88 years.
Okay.
That's the point I'm saying. Like, his entire life has been a long life journey for him. He told Michael Reinsdorf to sell the team and keep the Bulls. Sell the Sox when he passes and keep the Bulls. Jerry Reinsdorf will be the owner for the Chicago White Sox until he dies. And when he dies, Michael will own it until he sells it. Like, this is going to be a Reinsdorf team until it's not. So this could be 4 years. This could be 8 years. And it's, to your point, I think going to be 8 years of Chris Getz, or 4 to 8 years of Chris Getz. Like, he is going to get absolutely all of this runway. And my worry is, and I looked at this today, they started developing the Apollo spacecraft in November of 1961.
Okay.
They launched it February 26, 1966, I think it would have been.
Apollo 1
was launched then. So will it take Chris Getz longer to figure out how to build a 500 baseball team than NASA took to build a spacecraft?
Yes.
4 years.
Yes.
So from August 2023 to 2027. Like, by August 2027, when we're doing the CHGO White Sox podcast, will they have a 500 team by then?
No.
Like, and it's because, like, I don't think all of this change that they're doing with, the international team development, like, it's going to take a long time to deroot this organization.
Even if you get 3, even 2 top 100 prospects for Garrett Crochet, and maybe if you're lucky as hell, you get 1 for Luis Robert. That's only 3 players you're getting. And most of their prospects in the minors who are major league or major league forward are pitchers. Yeah, the George Wilcos of the world and the Colston Montgomerys, who's turning it up in AAA, and Edgar Carrolls are coming. But there is so many holes in this major league roster. They're picking 10th in that next year in the first round. Like, there's so much stuff, and we've already heard they're not going to be in free agency probably for years now. How are they going to get to 500 where they're at talent-wise right now? And that's not even to say all the analytics things they're behind on, all the facility things they're behind on. Like, it's going to take a major overhaul, salute, for this White Sox team to get back to respectability. And I dogged Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams, and as Vinny said before our show, like, I think Rick Hahn, out of everybody, came out of this looking the best, because it seemed like Kenny was just coming into the office like, veto that trade, I'm just coming back. And then 2020, yeah, that's my team, give me this, I'm going to take over responsibility, when Rick already had his power usurped by Jerry Reinsdorf hiring a manager over his head. So I think it's just going to be like, those guys at least had a competent mind about baseball and brought that rebuild into fruition, and it came quicker than I think most White Sox fans thought it would happen. Started in like 2017, and it, was successful by 2020. I don't think the White Sox have the talent now to acquire the players necessary to get back to prominence that quickly, like the White Sox in 2016 and 2017 had the talent on their team at that time to acquire the players that they did to make that rebuild quicker than it should be. And so I don't think that Chris Getz, firstly, doesn't have the experience or the process or the players to make it that quickly into the competing team.
But more so, times have changed, right? And if the whole theme of the reaction here is that there are people not willing to accept that times have changed big time since Rick Hahn made those trades. Mm-hmm. And teams are no longer willing to give up those sort of prospect packages for those type of players. You say that team had way more talent to deal from, and yeah, Chris Sale is a future Hall of Famer. But Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert Jr. are probably better together than Jose Quintana and Adam Eaton.
Yeah, but
theoretically,
right?
Theoretically,
but
yes.
The issue is baseball's changed so much that other baseball teams have learned from 2016, 2017 not to give out that type of haul.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. So the amount of talent that they have is really, to start with, is almost negligible, because the trades that Rick Hahn made cannot exist in 2024. So Chris Getz is not only if you're arguing that Chris Getz is already at a little bit of a disadvantage on that for not having the trade chips, well, he's also at the disadvantage that he doesn't have the ability to bring back the talent that Rick Hahn did. So what sort of effect that has on their timeline, we'll find out, because we don't even know what they're going to end up getting for a guy like Crochet or Robert. The only thing we have to go on is what they got for Cease. But yeah, I would think that it would be a much trickier situation, because the talent in the minor leagues is what you point to, I think. And the fact that people are looking around saying, not only can I can't even identify people that are going to be in this lineup in 2 years. That's the thing, I think, right now that Chris Getz in this front office is working against. And then you add everything that was in this article on top of it, right? So we look at things on a daily basis based on who's on the major league roster, who's in the minor league roster, kind of thing. But you talk about process over results all the time, Herb, and it seems that the process is the thing that is getting the most glaring attention in this article, and the thing that maybe when you add it up over the course of what's been 20 years is now the thing that has contributed to this, more than the fact of, this prospect didn't pan out, this guy got hurt, that kind of thing. The grand total, adding everything up, maybe is the thing that is to blame, and that's probably what Chris Getz is looking at in terms of all this behind-the-scenes stuff with their committees and everything that they're seemingly slowly but trying to change.
Well, and what, 1, 2, 3, 3 of the worst 6 seasons. Oh, actually, we can go to 2013. 4 of the 7 worst seasons in White Sox history have come since 2013. 2013, 2018, 2023, and then this year. And
3 of them have come with me on the beat.
And 2025 ain't going to be better. So anyways, that's going to wrap up this segment. I was going to end the show.
Yeah,
a lot more to talk about. We got Kenny Williams stuff to talk about. His Michael Jordan unretirement. We'll talk about his quote regarding Tony La Russa and more. And hey, Shohei Ohtani just became the first ever 50-50 player. So congratulations to him. Someone should pay him $700 million. Let's take a break. Herb, let them know how they could see Shohei Ohtani with GameTime.
Ooh, I'm on GameTime? Okay, sorry.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I can do GameTime.
I got it. GameTime has a new feature called GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. GameTime Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. A couple weekends ago, I went with my fiance to see Back to the Future, the musical. And of course, I went on to GameTime because I know that I'm going to get the lowest price guarantee with their GameTime guarantee, which states that if you find a lower price in the section and row that you're sitting in, GameTime will send you 110% of the difference of that price, just like I got when I went down to Atlanta a couple years ago. And a couple other features that I love about GameTime is they're all in pricing. Toggling this feature shows you the total up front with no surprises at checkout. And you get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. And with the GameTime ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code CHGO for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it?
GameTime. All right. I'm pretty shook by this Shohei thing. That dude's crazy.
He's decent.
Just think back to the World Baseball Classic before 2023. In that same park against America's best hitter.
Correct.
I'm not over this. He's
best hitter ever.
I mean, Barry Bonds exists.
I mean,
Mike Trout pretty good.
I mean, the steroids thing kind of takes him down a little bit. Yeah.
Hank Aaron's pretty good. Willie Mays, anyways, etc.
I'll take Mike Trout.
Really?
Yeah.
Over Hank Aaron?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be that quick on it,
Yeah,
but
I
he's
don't
very
know.
good.
Yeah, he's just hurt all the time.
Hank Aaron had I think 20 consecutive 40-40 seasons. I don't think there wasn't a season where he didn't hit at least 35 home runs.
Yeah, he had a bunch. He was great.
Anyways, literally going up against Mike Trout, America's best hitter, striking him out to win the World Baseball Classic, and then a year and 6 months later, he's back becoming the first ever hitter to have a 50-50 season. Incredible baseball player, but by far, easily the best baseball player of my life.
And I think so, and all time. I think that
already. He's not the MVP of 2024, but he's the best player of all time.
Of all time, yes. I mean, you can be both. Both of those things can't exist at the same time.
How is Lindor a better?
Well, now he's hurt, so that's how he's going to win the MVP.
Oh.
But also 50-50. But
you said 50-50 was arbitrary.
It is an arbitrary thing.
It's an amazing thing.
It is amazing.
The only person to ever do it.
Doesn't mean it's not arbitrary. But I would say that now I'm lost my train. He's stole the last 29 bases, I think, consecutively without being caught. That's more amazing to me as a huge dude like that is stealing bases on a whim. And he's stealing not just second, he's stealing third base. That dude picks him up and puts him down and hits home runs like it's going out of style. It's a weird time in our life that we've both seen. Like, I would say Mike Trout, before Shohei did all this stuff, was the best player I've ever seen. And then Shohei just okay, you ever see those lines where it's like the most home runs ever and it just keeps on ticking up and up? And Mike Trout was at that list for me, and then Shohei's been up and he's surpassed him by far because of the top 10 pitcher stuff and the number one baseball hitter in ever.
Are we still in an ad read?
Yes, probably.
We are? Oh, yeah. Hey, thank you. We want to let you know about our friends over at Circa. Whether it's pro or college, the app to bet football is Circa Sports Illinois. Circa Sports, it's sports betting the way it should be. Circa Sports Illinois has high betting limits, low holds, and exceptional customer service. Bet on all your favorite teams in every game this season. Spreads, props, futures, or in-game wagers, Circa Sports has it. Fund and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. Download your new bookie today at circasports.com. Must be 21 plus or older. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Thank you, Vinny, for getting us on track.
Yes, to send Vinny out to Vegas for that.
Yeah, there you go. I do like also the phrasing of White Sox Tom's comment saying, Ohtani might pitch in the playoff from what I'm hearing.
Report, :
Tom, are you also watching SportsCenter where Aldine Gonzalez reported that? All right. Let's get back to this article, and let's get back to the Kenny Williams part of this. Adam Hogue shared this screenshot of Kenny Williams' quote for Tony La Russa. I don't have a way to talk about that period of time because it takes me to a bad place and it will take me from the person I aspire to be. But also interesting hearing in this report from Ken Rosenthal that when Kenny came back, we talked about that unretirement, that it was like the Michael Jordan unretirement. It caught people off guard, and that Rick was much better at controlling that room. And here comes Kenny trying to take things over. What part of this Kenny thing was the most surprising thing? The fact that he really doesn't have a way to address the Tony stuff, or the fact that he was kind of out of it and then they pulled him back in, or he pulled himself back in?
The most surprising is that he talked at all. I mean, I remember as working as a score producer trying to get him on for any time. Like the only time I believe in the last couple years after the Manny Machado press conference in spring training that went off the rails, where Kenny told way too many truths, where I don't know if they censured him or didn't want him to talk, or have Rick be the front man for the White Sox or the spokesperson for the White Sox. He didn't talk for years on the Score or any outlet, and it wasn't probably because he didn't want to. It was because I think that the White Sox are like, hey, man, we have to have one unifying message, and Rick is better with dealing with the media than you are. And so let's just have him be the guy. And so him speaking to Ken actually surprised the hell out of me. But those articles, and the article where he's coming back and he's taking control, just confirms things that I've already heard about Kenny, where Jose Abreu gets signed and Kenny's got to say, oh, no, I scouted him. That was me. No. Yeah. I was the one who went down to Cuba and scouted him. Has to have credit, has to be out in front, and has to be the guy and let everybody know, hey, that was me. Like, if Rick Hahn does well, it looks good on you. That's the problem with Kenny, I think I have the most problem with, even though the World Series championship, excellent. I love it. And so I won't hate Kenny 100%, or hate is a strong word. I won't be adverse to Kenny 100% because of that championship, but he always has to tell you how great he is and how great he is at the job, instead of letting the guy below you do his job. And I have problems with Rick Hahn and how he did his job, but this article seemed to say that Rick was not only usurped by his owner, but he was usurped by his executive vice president of baseball operations and Kenny Williams from doing his job properly. And I thought that was probably the fault of Jerry Reinsdorf to set that type of dynamic up. Luckily for Jerry, he's understood that that was a problem, where you have those two guys butting heads, and now a sole baseball decision maker, hopefully in the future with Chris Getz going forward. But yeah, I didn't want Kenny to be speaking to Ken Rosenthal and telling all the stuff, because I think all this is like, look at me, I'm Kenny Williams, I did this, that, and the other. And it's a sad amount of events where this once great franchise that won a World Series 19 years ago is now the worst baseball organization. And I think Kenny is a huge part of that. And I don't want it to be that way, because I love Kenny for bringing me that championship, but it seems like he's a look at me guy. Look at what I did.
What I would say in regard to your question there, Sean, is just that there are examples in that article that support the general point, right? Which is, this organization is not run the way that a normal baseball organization is run. That Kenny Williams stepping in and making decisions on trades and all sorts of other things is weird. He was the executive vice president of baseball operations. He was the highest ranking baseball person in the organization, and they had an odd, to put it mildly, situation in which it seemed that even though he remained in that title, the person technically below him on the org chart, so to speak, was the one who was in charge of that, certainly that rebuilding project, but you would think everything involving that rebuilding project. And so it's less so any one individual anecdote and more so the overarching way things were happening that seems to shock Ken Rosenthal or shock people on the outside of the organization or in a national thing, because that's not how this works. All you got to do is go to the north side. When Theo Epstein was here and Jed Hoyer was the GM, or even the way they have it set up now with Jed Hoyer at the top and Carter Hawkins as the GM, that there was never a question that of who was making the ultimate decision here. They were not only working in tandem, but with someone who had a clear rank at the top of that the White Sox, at least in practice, did not have that, remains surprising, and probably is just another example, right, of what the main article was trying to prove, that this is an organization that is run in a very bizarre fashion.
And again, this will be the last time I'll try to bring it up, but Kenny spoke about it, and he didn't even speak about it. When you have two voices pulling on opposite ends of the rope, is Tony La Russa supposed to come in and pull on that rope from the middle? What do you think, knowing what we know now, what we thought we know has now been put into fact, what wedge do you think Tony La Russa possibly drove between this? Did he make this worse? Was it possibly a coming apart or a coming together moment because we did see the success in 2022? How am I supposed to view the Tony La Russa decision by Jerry Reinsdorf after the fact?
Again, I said it earlier in this show, and I think I'll say it again. I mean, it with all of this other stuff, painting a picture of someone who's making decisions like it's the 90s, what a great hire Tony La Russa was in the 90s, right? I mean, and so obviously there's a personal relationship there. Obviously, Jerry has the history with Tony, and Tony is undoubtedly as accomplished a manager as there has ever been in this sport, right? That you would want somebody with that resume is not surprising. You should always want someone with that resume. But he built that resume a long time prior to him being hired. The article that Ken and Britt wrote did not paint a very good picture of Tony La Russa as the manager behind the scenes. I would not dispute that at all, but I would say that my experience covering Tony La Russa, it didn't seem like the worry, many of the concerns that people had when Tony La Russa was hired ever came to fruition, right? It seemed that he did not clash with people because he was old or out of touch or anything like that in terms of the players, right? They all seemed to basically like him for the most part, or at least the one, the folks that thought he was going to butt heads with, he didn't end up. And they won more than they did under him than they have or anybody else. Not that is necessarily the biggest bar to clear, but let's put it this way. It's very clear that was a huge wrench thrown into the plan that Rick Hahn had. And the way that Rick Hahn wanted that rebuilding project to play out could not play out because of Tony La Russa. It does not mean that it still could have been successful. Obviously, whether Tony La Russa or AJ Hinch or anybody else is the manager, they're not going to stop Yohan Moncada and Luis Robert Jr. and everybody from getting injured.
Correct.
But obviously things changed in a big unforeseen way, and probably in a way that was difficult to try to keep on that same track, because Tony La Russa is Tony La Russa. He's an extraordinarily accomplished guy who Jerry Reinsdorf, his best buddy, constantly talks about how smart he is and what kind of brain he is. If you're going to bring that guy in to be your manager, of course you're going to give him the license to do things the way you want him to do it, right? I mean, a lot of people talk about front office interference as being a bad thing. And here's a guy from an era where there was no front office interference, or very little of it, right? But in the plan that they had set up very carefully, that Rick Hahn had set up very carefully, this took them in an entirely different direction.
How I read that quote that Kenny was kind of biting his tongue on what the Tony La Russa era was that Jerry Reinsdorf, like many humans, has 2 ears. And you already have Kenny Williams, you already have Rick Hahn, and now you're adding in a third ear, a third person to talk off or to get Jerry's ear. And so it seems to me, I'm reading as when he came here, he had Jerry's ear, and it made Kenny's and Rick's job a little harder to do, because, as Vinny just said, Jerry thinks that Tony is a smart baseball man, and he's a Hall of Famer, so he's backed up by that. And I'm sure when it came down to a struggle between, hey, we want to go this way, hey, we want to go that way, Jerry would probably look at the Hall of Famer and say, you got 3 championships. Tony, you only got 1, Kenny. That guy, I'm going to listen to him. Or there'll be too many times that he would listen to Tony La Russa over Kenny Williams and or Rick Hahn. So that's why I think that Kenny wants to bite his tongue on saying too much bad stuff about Tony La Russa, because that's what I read in the article, that he doesn't want to just blast Tony La Russa because he already has respect for Jerry Reinsdorf, and he knows that Jerry Reinsdorf likes Tony. Any bad words towards Tony probably would be a slight towards Jerry. So that's why I'm reading that quote from Kenny Williams.
As you said, we only have 2 ears. Kenny's in one ear, Rick's in the other ear, and playing in the background, rock sets, Listen to Your Heart, and he just hears the heartbeat of Tony La Russa inside of him. You know, that's really what happened. We're going to take a break. We're going to let
Rock
you
set,
know
though.
about
Wow.
our... What?
Roxette pull right there.
I knew the song.
Oh, I didn't see that one coming.
Me either.
I knew the song, but I didn't know who sung it. I had to Google that one. I won't lie. Let's let you know about our friends over at Sunnyside. It is Sunnyside Summer Thursday. Our friends at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary are here to elevate your summer. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. They have a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from, with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They have spots as far south as Champaign and as far north as South Beloit. So stop into the store nearest you for expert guidance from their staff, or select from quality lines like Cresco or FloraCal. And here for the summer, it's only here for a little bit longer, is Good News' Tea Time Disposable Vape. I meant summer. I'm not sure about the vape. Bring classical lemonade flavor that's perfect for the golf course, because we all need help staying loose on the green. And with this weather, you can be golfing probably well until October or November. And you can go visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. 50% off your first 3 online purchases using promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. 50% off your first 3 online purchases using promo code HICHGO at checkout. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders.
The CHGO Bears crew is going to London, England in October. Sorry, Ian. Just a few packages remaining. Direct flights to London. Golly Jude, sir. Let's go to London, October 9th to the 15th. Sorry, Ian. That's terrible.
Did you say Golly Judd?
Yeah, Golly Jude instead of Golly
Close enough.
Jolly Good. Direct flights to London and airport transfers for you when you go to TrueFanTravel.com. Individual event tickets are available now at TrueFanTravel.com. But if you don't want to go to London, England, or you can't go to London, England, you can make it to the Phoenix, Arizona trip that the Bears crew is going on November 3rd. Our trip package includes a 3-night stay at a 4-star Phoenix hotel, Q&A with Bears alumni, all-inclusive tailgate party, a round-trip transportation to the game, upper-level ticket to the game versus the Bears and the Cardinals. Reserve your spot now at the party at TrueFanTravel.com. Now, limited spots available. And also, this Sunday, live watch-along at Joe's on Weed Street with the CHGO Bears crew. What better thing do you want to do than watch a game with Adam Hogue, Greg Braggs, Lance Briggs,
Alex
Corey Wooten?
Like, got people.
What better thing? And then 100 of your closest diehard fans. Come on out. Go to that CHGO or ALLCITY.com and hit the events page and sign up today. There are packages available for you right damn now. We have podcasts on the CHGO Sports page every day for us, for the Bulls or Bears, Hawks, Cubs, and post-game shows like we'll have on Sunday when the White Sox finish playing the San Diego Padres. Premium written content for members from allchgo.com from people like Vinnie Duber. 20% off of events like the events that I just mentioned, the live event we're having this Sunday, the event in London, the event in Phoenix, dope merch for all teams, free t-shirt when you become a member, and a members-only Discord access, which we call the CHGO Lounge. So go to allchgo.com right damn now and become a diehard member.
Thank you very much, Herb. All right, quick quiz here. Shohei Ohtani, who has a better career-adjusted OPS plus, Frank Thomas or Ohtani?
Frank Thomas.
Frank Thomas, 156. Manny Ramirez or Ohtani? Manny. Shohei or Honus Wagner?
Shohei.
Shohei or Edgar Martinez?
Shohei.
Shohei or Jim Thome? Shohei.
Wow.
Whoa.
Albert Pujols or Shohei?
This would be shocking. Is it Ohtani?
It's Shohei.
Wow.
Shohei is 38th. Ramirez is 34th. Frank is 29. But yeah, Honus 151, Edgar 147, Jim Thome 147, Pujols 145.
Here's one for you too. How about this? Shohei Ohtani today, the first player since 1901 with 2 homers, 2 doubles, and 2 steals in a game. That's shocking.
That's insane.
How has that not happened in 120 years?
I mean, it's hard to go 4 for 4, firstly. And then when you get on base to steal some bases and to be powerful to hit 2 home runs in a game.
How many guys have just gone 4 for 4 with 4 extra base hits? I mean, that's insane. I mean,
He went 5 for 5 with 4 extra base hits, by the way.
And, go look at the
Remember
home
the
runs.
single.
Go look at the home runs. He hit a ball up into the upper deck in Miami, which I haven't seen many people do. Like maybe Justin Bohr when he was really going after it in 2016. And then he hits like a slicing one to left field. Like just 2 completely different hit balls. Shohei Ohtani's amazing.
Not as good as your Ben Weber pull yesterday.
Yeah, that was insane.
It's an all-timer.
That was great.
I was like, you go to school with him or something?
All right. I think the final thing that I wanted to bring up had to deal with analytics. So before I get into my nerdy stuff, is there anything else with this organization, Jerry, Kenny, that you want to get into, the Airbus that we didn't touch upon before we get into the analytics part? Then we'll wrap this up.
No, I think what you're about to talk about actually took up a big chunk of real estate in that story, so it's probably worth mentioning.
I guess the final one, and it's the reason why I didn't think of it was because it's not a part of the story. We did get another story like this from Jeff Passan about, 2 days ago. And in that piece, he mentions Brian Mahler, a former Harvard lacrosse player who went on to become a Marine and Navy SEAL. Before earning his law degree from Georgetown, he joined the White Sox as the Director of Leadership, Culture, and Continuing Education. Mahler, who came into the organization after never working in baseball, is at the heart of the overhaul in Chicago's front office, and committee headed by Mahler is expected to recommend a suite of changes for the organization to institute in the coming years. It's a multi-year progress with a focus, sources said, on optimizing resources, scaling processes, and connecting departments. And Reinsdorf, who is 88, is backing it after years of wanting to win now. Vinnie, I know that you have been aware of Mahler, but this is kind of the first introduction to the people of Mahler. So what have you taken away from what you've been able to glean at your time at the park from Brian Mahler?
Not too much. Haven't spoken to him, but have seen him a bunch, and he was very visible in spring training, very visible throughout the entire season, be it in the clubhouse or the dugout or just around the team. He's a guy that seems to be studying what's going on there, and obviously now he's playing a big role from what we've heard from the national reporting in terms of what they're going to do to make some of these changes. So he's a guy who has been pretty high up in the front office, I guess you can say. He's got a nice bio in the media guide, and like I said, he's been very visible all year long. So now we're finding out kind of what that actual maybe end goal of his job was, and that's to make some big changes in the organization.
Just with his name and then what he's done in his career, he seems like a guy with a buzz cut.
No?
Disappointed. Mahler's a great name, though.
No buzz cut?
No buzz cut.
Sad.
Okay, all right. Does he
Short
have
hair, but no buzz cut.
Okay, short hair, but no. Okay. All right. Yeah, there was one piece that connected this to the Padres. Apparently, the Padres tried to do something similar. Ken Rosenthal wrote about it. It didn't go well for the Padres, but we'll see how it goes for the White Sox. As Jeff mentioned, the suite of changes has not been made known to even Jerry Reinsdorf at this point. They're still waiting for him to present his plan. So we'll see what his plan consists of. But hopefully that's asked to Chris and Jerry after the year of what he's going to do.
I'll tell you this: if we get to talk to Jerry again, we've got some topics.
Yes.
We've got some topics.
And this kind of makes me think that he won't speak. Let's get into the analytics part. The one thing that stuck out from this piece, former pitchers describe Chicago's game planning as almost rudimentary. Rather than provide individual plans for hitters, the White Sox offer generalities such as your sinker will play down in the zone, an insufficient answer against, say, a line full of left-handed hitters who handle sinkers in that area. Minor league pitchers with high walk totals were told things like work on your command with no other specifics in the offseason. And then along with that, this is from the same article. Even when they tried to use analytics, the White Sox weren't sure how. For years, they used 2 sets of adjusted TrackMan data. TrackMan is similar to StatCast, but more in depth is you pay for this premium service, and TrackMan provides its own data for you. The White Sox also had an outside analytic department providing outside numbers off of this TrackMan data. One, like most teams, received them from a third party, and another was developed by their own analytical people. Sometimes the two sets of data would be dramatically different, making it difficult to evaluate players and write reports. In 2019, a debate about spin race versus adjusted spin rate caused an internal strife. It was comical, said a former baseball operations employee. This at least makes my heart sink, but at least to this, I think the biggest bright spots I need to take away, because I can't think about this for too long because it makes me sick, is at least Brian Bannister is here, because it does seem like it is more involved than it had been, and that was one of Chris Getz's first moves. I think he was announced before Barfield, right?
Right around the same time.
One of them. Yeah. So I'm glad that he had an idea of, hey, we need to fix this, and it does seem like the game plans are more consistent this year. The White Sox starting pitching has been better than any other part of their team, and the bullpen has mainly been bad because have a lot of talent going in and out, injuries, etc. And then it really shows off how well Mike Shirley's done. Mike Shirley, in this chaos, whether it's Rick and Kenny as his boss, whether it's Chris as his boss, has consistently gone in and year out and have pulled out some fairly impressive drafts. Looking at the White Sox draft history, the best history of their era has been when Mike Shirley has been at the command. So these news and notes about the White Sox internal part is disgusting and shows that you're just kind of out of touch with it all. But hopefully Chris Getz is kind of plugging that back in, getting them back more in touch with this. And obviously it's not showing on this year's results, but next year is different, I guess. So I don't think I have too much about the analytics stuff. It seems like that is one of Chris Getz's main priorities, is to get it fixed, because it's been such a mess.
Well, to me, it's the fact that it needs to be fixed more so than anything else that needs to be put into it, right? I mean, you are somebody, and you're not alone in saying they need to hire more people to be or spend more money to be like other teams around the league, right? And while that very well may be the case, maybe just work on the communication between departments. Maybe just work on how you're going to use this stuff. I mean, it might be less about, at least in my eyes reading this article, it might be less about where the resources are going and just how you're using those resources, right? How you're thinking about this data that you have. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on that by any stretch of the imagination, but it would seem that if you've got people complaining about the way communication is being done and the way things are aligning across departments, that seems like something that's a little different, even a little more basic than just diving into what you describe as the nerdy stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm just one voice would be great, top down. And if they need a top analytics person, czar, that guy, girl, is the voice that those people are listening to, and it filters down, and so you don't have strife throughout the organization. That person's word is what we're going to be listening to.
Yeah, we'll have more on the White Sox organization as the rest of the year goes on. We'll just be here for
9 games
forever. 9 games left. We'll have a post game on Sunday, and we will have a ton of coverage here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel before for the rest of the year. What's up?
I just think that I hope this article kind of embarrasses them into action that they're already looking like they're taking.
Yeah, I hate that thinking, because you have 117 losses and counting. That should be embarrassing enough. That's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. That's Vinny. That's Herb. I'm Sean. Talk to you later. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.